Hi everyone, it's Sana Husseini. On today's episode, we have Kylie Anicic, who's going to talk a little bit about her journey, all different types of schools and mental health related to that. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, and a little bit about what you do.
I'm Kylie Anicic. I run cross country and track at Pennwest Edinboro, and I'm also a nursing major. I'm from New Jersey, and this is actually the third school I've been at because I'm a double transfer.
So tell me a little bit more about your double transfer, what other schools you played at, and kind of your path here.
Yeah, so I started playing soccer at Temple University. My whole life I was a soccer player, and then in high school I still ran, but I didn't really get good at it until my senior year. And when I thought I maybe run into run in college, I was like, no, follow through on your verbal commitment with soccer, like you're a woman of your word type of thing, and that's what I did. So I spent one semester at Temple University, and I played soccer there, and it was just not at all what I thought it was going to be. It was not homey. It was a bit almost, I don't want to say like degrading in like a general sense, but towards me it felt that way. I'm a tiny gal since I run, but when it came to like putting weight on and stuff, when I had to flip my protein shake over before leaving the locker room, or when there was like a phone bin before practices and stuff like that, I felt like my identity was being taken away, and it just like wasn't what I wanted to do. And I also realized I really missed running, so I was like, I'll go on the transfer portal. And then I transferred to Towson University in the spring, so that was 2019, and I started running there. And I really liked the team, and I really liked the coach. And then that distance coach actually stepped down, and we got a new one. And that also spiraled very fastly to be bad again and not good for me. I fell into like a little bit of like an underfueling. I wouldn't call it an eating disorder because it wasn't to that extent, but more so of like disordered eating, and the community around me wasn't building me up. I was just like being forced to go so hard every single day to the point where I had a stress reaction in my foot and everything was like tumbling down. I became anemic. I would run I was like a 4:55 miler at that time, and I stepped on the track at Penn State and I ran a 5:33. And to drop over 30 seconds in a mile is a lot. So everything just started like tumbling down. But I knew if I transferred again, I would have to sit for a year and have ineligibility and not be able to compete. But then yet again, I thought to myself, and I was like, well, I think that's more worth it than to stay somewhere where I'm unhappy. I was starting like therapy and everything in between, mm-hmm. and I would never do something like step out of my comfort zone to take care of myself in that way. And I think that it was just I was worried about what other people thought if I went to a third school, like, oh, she can't get it right, she's a failure, because I am an anxious person and I look at like perfectionism and stuff. Naturally, a lot of student athletes do. But I finally made the decision because I kind of told my parents it was either I leave and I go somewhere else again, or I'm just a normal student, and an athlete is a part of my identity and something I wanted to do. So I left again, and I looked around, and it led me here to Pennwest Edinboro. And ever since I've been here, I met the best people I've ever met in my life. I know these are the people I'm gonna talk to forever, and the people that are gonna be in my wedding one day. And I've been succeeding academically way more and running the fastest times I've ran. So.
And so I know you're humbly saying that, I know you I know you off set, obviously.
Yeah.
But whoever watches this doesn't know, and, I don't want you to be humble in this moment. I want you to let them know, how successful you've been at Edinboro and, at the Division II level altogether.
Mm-hmm. So, it's funny because the Division I level, I was still running, faster times, but it was never even close to what I was running now. And now I am a second-team All-American in winter track in the 5K. I'm a All-American this past season in cross-country. I have the indoor school record in the 5K, 16:26. I just won PSAC cross country with my team this past season. We won indoor for the first time in school history. I've won a lot of individual events at PSAC. I don't remember how many titles. Okay. I think it might have been like 7. I don't like to do my own work, and that makes me uncomfortable. I'm undefeated in the PSAC so far, yes. I think I have, like, with cross country, I think it's 8 individual titles or something like that, which is really cool because at my old schools, I would have never ever pictured myself, like, winning a conference title. But that's also the difference between the Division I stigma and D2. You're not just a number, and you're taken care of, and you can be the best version of yourself, so.
Yeah, and so, like, everything, like, I feel like you said a lot of things that are, you know, it takes a lot of strength to kind of talk about it now, but you never touched on, like, in those situations, you know, you have an eating disorder, just, like, stuff like that you were struggling a lot in, you know, what kind of got you out of that mental state, like?
Honestly, like, my teammates that were still there with me, like, my best friend at Towson, my friend Allison, she, like, helped me so much because, I mean, a lot of people go through having an irregular relationship with food at some point, like, especially if you're a distance runner, you're like, if I look the part, I'll play the part type of thing, but you're not gonna play the part if you're underfueled, and you know what I mean? So, and it takes a lot of time to learn that running bodies come in any form, but my friend helped me so much, and my food Instagram that I actually have now, I have a food Instagram called Speedy Eats, and we originally, like, created that together because it was something that would, like, help me have a more positive relationship with food, where I would, like, post all my recipes and stuff like that, just to, like, find a positive aspect of, like, eating and feeling myself. Because there was most mornings where, like, me and her would be eating breakfast because she's my roommate at the time, and I'm, like, gagging on my oatmeal, and she's like, what the, like, you know what I mean? Like, we need to, like, something needs to change. So her and just, like, my family in general, like, really helping me. Like, I remember my mom buying me, like, a bunch of cookbooks and stuff like that, like, to help me meal prep, so that I did have stuff ready for me, and it wasn't like, oh, it feels like a chore to go and make this, and I don't want to, like, type of thing. So I would say my family and, like, my close friends who knew me didn't want to see me, like, go down that path. And, like, it never got really bad where I was, like, you know, 20 pounds underweight. I mean, I'm still smaller now because I run a lot. But I would say that really helped me. And I would honestly credit a lot of it to being open with it on my food Instagram.
And you're talking a lot about your physical health, but, like, let's touch a little bit on the, like, the mental aspect of it, like the mental health that, like, people don't really like to talk about.
Yeah. Mentally, I just felt so weak. Like, it might make me upset to talk about it. I don't really talk about it, but I'll talk about it. I just felt, like, so weak and run down. And I remember, like, that was the first time I ever started going to therapy and stuff. And I would be like, oh, I'm not, like, depressed, I'm just tired. And I remember even when I was, like, getting anemic and I, like, went to the team doctor about it, like, he was like, other signs are, like, pointing you towards, like, depression. Because, I mean, when you're not happy in a place, you don't feel supported by your, like, authority figures, and everything else feels like it's crashing down on you, and you're tired all the time from everything else. And I went to therapy, and I knew that I was acting out of the normal when, like, my roommate was like, oh, like, do you want company tonight? Like, let me sleep with you in your bed, like, type of thing. And I was like, oh, like, is it, like, do people think am I showing that I'm more upset than I think I am? Like, does someone think I'm gonna, like, do something to myself, and it's, like, a safety, like, they're protecting me type of thing? I just think that there's a lot that I haven't even talked about, even with my parents, because of, like, a little bit of, like, history of, like, depression in my family, with stuff like that. But mentally, yeah, it was very, very, very hard for me. But, I mean, it's as expected when everything else isn't working out. Because if you're being torn down so much and you only have, like, 4 people building you up, it's not enough.
And so in those situations, you kind of started relying on, like, therapy and to kind of get you out of it?
I relied on therapy. I relied on friends, and I would say that's about it. I mean, it's hard to navigate new feelings that you never thought you were going to feel before, because if you ask anyone now, like, I talk so much, I don't shut up. I'm so outgoing and energetic. I'm very happy. And, like, when I was feeling that way and people were saying I was different, like, that was just bizarre to me. And it's, like, something I almost didn't even really realize. But I relied on that, and I relied on people, and that was in the spring of 2019. So eventually COVID hit. And for some people, COVID, you know, made them put people into depression. They lost things and whatnot. But COVID is what, like, was my saving grace, because I had so much time to be home and work on myself and figure out what I really wanted. I think if COVID didn't happen, I would still be at my previous school, and I would have felt trapped, for sure. Which
I like that you touched on the fact that, like, that you had to work on yourself. You know, often we do rely on other things, and at the end of the day, you kind of just have to, and you said you were, like, deflecting the idea of that, like, no way I have depression. No way.
Right.
At the end of the day, you kind of have to look in the mirror and get yourself out of there. So I like that you said that, because, you know, it's hard. It's hard to face it, and, you know, I'm happy that you're here today. And, like, it's kind of cool because me and my teammates, obviously, we've spoke to you, and, like, you've kind of implied or told us that you still get anxious, even with all your success today. So I want you to touch on that. Even when you have success, still kind of having some of those emotions and how you navigate with them.
Okay, it's so funny you actually asked me this, because me and, like, even my teammates, like, talk all the time, or we'll, like, debate. Like, if I, like, talk about a race and I'm like, oh, I'm nervous, they're like, why are you nervous? But I think that's something that also, even now, something I struggle with is, even when you're, like, it's lonely at the top. Like, when you're at the top, it is lonely. And even though you're, like, reaping all these, like, rewards and, like, all my hard work's paying off, it's kind of, instead of, like, getting on the line and being nervous, like, oh, I hope I do good and I hope I'm in the middle of the race or something. It's, like, the pressure of, okay, I'm always winning. So what happens, like, one day when I'm supposed to win a race and I don't? Like, that's almost more mentally defeating. And that's something that I know will eventually happen, because I'm not perfect. So I know that'll eventually happen one day when I'm supposed to win something, or at conference, maybe I won't win a race, or I'm not exactly sure. But that's probably why I do get anxious, is because I step on the line and it's like, people know who I am. They're like, that girl's supposed to win. That girl is fast. She wins all the time. And it's just like, if I don't, it's just separating what other people think and knowing that you're more than just an athlete. Like, that's what helps me calm me down, is like, I'm more than a runner. I'm more than an athlete. At the end of the day, if I lose, but I know I tried my best, then it's okay. But that's definitely where my anxious part stems from, is stepping on the line and definitely being a little nervous to fail.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because that's, like, the one thing this season, every time, you know, I'm about to, you know, suit up, it's like I tell myself that, like, you're so much more, like, I can go score nothing, and at the end of the day, I still have done this.
Exactly. Like, years from now, when I'm married and I have kids, my kids are going to look at me and be like, she's the best mom ever, not she was an All-American and won this race or lost this race. Like, my husband's going to be like, oh, you're the best wife ever, not, oh, you used to be so fast years ago. Like, there's just so much more to every person, and that's something that I'll always tell myself and remember.
And that's, like, how it works, like, with those coaches who kind of treated you that way. I think they just get lost in the idea that, you know, they forget that you're a human too. And, like, what do you feel like there's, in those situations, what do you feel like all you needed from those coaches was?
I think I just needed to be looked at as a whole person. I mean, it's not like this at every big school or every Division I program. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. There's amazing coaches out there at that level. Obviously, that's why people are succeeding. But I think some coaches at that level, I mean, I'm sure even at lower levels like D2 and D3, some coaches just get caught up in, I feel, their job. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, winning and that's their job. Recruiting is their job. And I think when they get too caught up in that aspect of looking at like the numbers of their team and like times and wins and losses, and they're forgetting that like we are people and we are a part of their life and we should be like a family to them, that's when it starts to get like a fine line. Mm-hmm. And I think every coach just needs to look at their athletes and be like, they're a overall whole person. Like, they're a student, they're an athlete, they're a friend, they're a sister, they're a brother, like they're someone's son, daughter. Like, there's so much more than just seeing me on the track. And I think that's what every college coach needs to take into account when coaching.
All right, so what I usually do to kind of conclude everything is, you know, you talked about your support system, you know, your family, friends, and your coaches as well. If they were all kind of sitting around you in this room right now, you know, what are a few things or maybe one thing you just have or would want to tell them?
I think that if everyone was sitting around me right now, I would just be really grateful with everyone around me, and I would like tell them that I'm on my own path. And I think something where it was like split, like some people would be like, yeah, Kylie, go do this or don't do that, is I think I would just tell everyone that I'm on my own path and I'm my own person and I have my own like goals at the end of the day that I'll eventually get to. And even though I may be a little behind now, because that was like a really big thing in like everything going on, like coaches and friends from the past, people now, is like just me being like behind in my path, since it will be taking me 6 years instead of 4 years to get out of school. But to me, I think I would just like tell everyone like thank you for supporting me, and that if I didn't have that support, like I would have never ever took the chance of doing that and being here. And even though it's 2 extra years, it created a lifetime of memories and change in my life and saved me mentally, emotionally, and physically. So I think that's what I would tell them.
Yeah, and I just wanted you to know that, especially, you know, we play at the same school, and coming from another student athlete who's also a female, like, all of us kind of look up to you in a sense. And I'm telling you, that's from the basketball team. Like, we talk about you often, and you're a really special kid, a really special human, and I'm really grateful that I have you. I look up to you so much more than you know. You have no idea, I swear.
I didn't know that.
So I'm so grateful that you're here with me today, and you're talking about it, and hopefully we can impact at least one life in this process, and, you know, change one person's experience. So
thank you.